Promotional consideration paid for by the following. Webster Ace Hardware and Farm Supply are generous sponsors for today's podcast. They have been a family-owned business for 27 years. This helpful hardware store sells items such as archery, Ariat clothing and boots, Wrangler jeans, case knives, Hammond's candies, and live fishing wear. They also have a full selection of hardware, RV supply, propane, Ben Moore, Royal & Clark, and Kenningston paints. You need a barn or fencing job done? Custom barn kits and roofing metal are provided at your local Ace Hardware store. What about a new grill for the yard? Traeger, Big Green Egg, Weber, and Blackstone are found here, along with all the accessories to go with them. Stock up your workshop with DeWalt, Milwaukee, or Craftsman tools. They got you covered. Remember to go to ace.com to shop their entire line to have items shipped directly to the store. All right, welcome back to another edition of the Goblay Show. I'm your host, Billy Goble, and we're here in Pittsburgh for part two, and I have another special guest that I wanted to come up here and talk to and get some information from and just see how he's doing. Big fan of the voice of the Pirates, Pittsburgh Pirates. Everyone, welcome Greg Brown. Greg, welcome to the show, buddy.
Billy, it's my pleasure. It's great to see. It's great to have you in the Berg, by the way. I didn't realize you traveled all this stuff. This is great.
I think it was 2014 or 2015. Can't think of it because it just feels like one big blur. But my father, it was 3 days after Christmas, my dad had a massive heart attack. And he doesn't remember those. Like, he was in a coma for 2 weeks.
Wow.
Doesn't remember any of that time.
Oh, my gosh.
And so that was Christmas. About second week of January, he was able to go home. But they told him, they said, you're going to need, they put a stent in him while they were in there.
Wow.
And did the coma, was able to come out of it okay. He got released finally. Felt like eternity. And so they told him, they said, hey, you're going to need a quadruple bypass.
Jeez.
So there's a game, and we my sister has it on her Facebook, but there's a game I tweeted you, and I said during the broadcast, and it was you and Steve, and I said, hey, I'm just sitting here with my dad in Florida. He just had his quadruple bypass, and he's recovering. We're watching the Buccos, and didn't know if you'd even see it. Didn't know if anybody would even see it at all. But we're just sitting there, kind of, when you're watching a baseball game and you just relax, and then all of a sudden, I hear you say, "Want to give a shout out to Greg Goble in Florida at surviving a quadruple bypass surgery," and Steve Blass says, he needs another shout out.
There's that timing.
Yeah, just but it's something my dad and I will never forget, and it was a truly magical, just a moment we had together, and he's just very lucky to be alive.
I'm glad you told me that, because it helps to know. When you're, even to this day, you just, there's something about hearing your name on the radio or television. Yeah. There's something different about it. Yeah. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
I'm talking about even me. But you still forget how meaningful little things like that are to people, and that's a great story.
Well, I appreciate that memory. I mean, and that's something that, like I said, just even by meeting you, I tweeted you the first couple times, and I'm like, he's not gonna know who I am. You didn't know who I was to begin with, but he's way too busy. And you weren't. You were very genuine. You were very down to earth. So was, like I said, like we're talking about Fort. I keep saying Fort. But every time Fort, I text him on Instagram or whatever, and he's always responsive. And it's like, that's what makes it worth, being a Pirates fan.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have all this. My brother, I'll have to show it to you later. There's a picture. My brother is actually, his contact picture is of you and him.
Oh.
Him and I went to a spring training game, and you came down and met us. And that's my he wanted me. He's like, you think are you gonna mention that? I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'll say something. But
that's great.
But yeah, it was just something that, I mean, the Cowboys for me are the same way. There's just something about the Pirates that I don't know. I can't explain it.
No, you can't explain it. And that's what fandom is. You can't explain it. There's no reason to try to explain it.
No.
That's what a true fan is, though.
Yeah.
You'll need no explanation.
Yeah.
I'm just a fanatical follower.
So I asked Fort the same thing I'm going to ask you, because you do a lot of traveling. Is there a town that you love going to? When you see it on the schedule, like, all right, I love going to this town. And could you tell me why?
Yeah, this is pre-COVID and all the disruptions we had in 2020, because I think cities have changed throughout the country, not for the better. So I'm going to preface it by saying this is pre-2020, and when I would have jumped at that answer before, and it was Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Just a fabulous place. For me, it's little Chicago without the mayhem.
Gotcha.
And Chicago's huge. It's kind of like Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
You can negotiate the city, and same with Milwaukee. Everything's within walking distance. Beautiful lake shore. Chicago's so much bigger. Chicago's a great town. I still like going to Chicago, but Milwaukee was it for me. And the summer, kind of like Buffalo, these lake towns, really rough winters.
Yeah.
But spectacular summers. I mean, low humidity, sunshine on that lake. Buffalo is like that for me. Cleveland is like that, and certainly Milwaukee and Chicago are like that as well. So and I like going to San Diego because of the weather. It's a great. I love places where we stay at a hotel within walking distance of the ballpark, and we are literally attached to Petco. The hotel is a nice hotel, and there's a walkway you could get, like on the fourth level, walk right across from your hotel.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to go on the street. You go right up to, and you're up a ramp, and you're in the press box, and it's a beautiful ballpark. Most of the cities I really like going to. It's fun. It's different. I love going to D.C. because I feel like it's kind of home, truly home for me, where I was born and to a degree raised my early years, and getting a chance to see my relatives is neat. And I love history, so I love that. My grandfather was a congressman. My uncle was a politician. There's politics in our blood, so I like D.C. for that reason.
Right.
And those probably stand out to me as my favorites.
Gotcha. I really haven't been to a lot of ballparks. I've been to the Trop, which is right down the road from where we live, and I've always wanted to go to Miami, but now there's they've got an express rail from the airport in Orlando, and we can go make a weekend out of that to go down to Miami. But it's like, other than Three Rivers and PNC, I don't think I've ever been to. Oh, I did go to Old Ted. Was it Turner Field, which is now a football field, and to watch one of our young men that played for us. He played at App State, and they played Georgia State in Turner Field.
Wow, cool.
And we're sitting in the outfield like we should be out with a glove, and it's just so weird how. Yeah,
that must have been fun.
So do you have a favorite ballpark? CY Western Company is located in Bushnell, Florida. It's a great place for boots, clothing, gifts, and accessories for the whole family. They are a family-owned and operated business that opened in 2008. They offer free gift bagging and layaway services, and also a 10% discount for 4-H and FFA members with proof of membership. Be sure to like them on Facebook, where customers can stay updated on sales and giveaways. You can find them next to Lowry's True Value Hardware in Bushnell, open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6, and Saturdays, 9 to 5. Be sure to check out CY Western Company. Or Petco.
Petco's good. Milwaukee's good too. I like the sight lines there. We're on the lower bowl, probably third level of PNC Park, and so that's important. It's a great booth. The radio booth especially is good in Milwaukee. Cincinnati's radio booth is really good, and so I based all that on the location of the press box, the restrooms, and the radio or TV booth, and the setup. So, the New York City Field radio booth is good. The TV booth, not so much. But other than that, I do like that setup. I like the Central divisions. The old Minute Maid we used to go to. They were in the National League Central for years. I missed that because the radio and TV booths are really good there.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of indoor stadiums, but those are good. And like San Diego stands out. LA's good. LA is overrated though. And it's so loud, so incredibly loud. There was one time I didn't, have much interaction with Vin Scully, other than passing him in the hallway and saying hi. I try to avoid bothering people, and so I really did it almost at all costs. He's always, if he's in the hallway, people are talking with him, and I just wasn't going to do that. Just wave and say hi. But whereas one time I was trying to do, well before the game, before the gates opened up, I was trying to do a radio spot to send back to the station in Pittsburgh. And I don't know whether I was talking to Vin and he said goodbye, or Vin saw this, and as I'm doing it, it's getting louder and louder, and can't do it. I'm turning back to our engineer saying, I don't know what to do. And Vin, maybe he was, but Vin said, well, it is so loud here. And Vin went back, whatever he said, boom. Silence. So I got that done in a hurry. But Dodger Stadium is just, people talk about how great. It's okay. It's just, for me, it's overrated. Again, I can't get over the volume. I just cannot believe. You get out there with a head, and I'm not, I'm the old guy, get off my lawn guy. I get that. But when it comes to that, I think, and maybe it's just where we're situated too. Yeah. Maybe the speakers are just blaring right into, because I've complained about PNC Park. We had speakers right there,
right,
and they've now turned those down or off.
Yeah,
because I don't. It's funny because I remember being the guy in charge of think about that, Bill. Here I am in the front office of the Pirates. I'm spinning records between innings, and before the game, during batting practice, and after the game. My job was, again, the DJ between innings. And so I had a turntable, I had a tape machine, and I had the volume control. And I sat in a booth, small little booth with the organist, Vince Lashide. In the other booth, we could see it through the plexiglass, was the PA announcer and about 5 or 6 people with the scoreboard stuff. And I would want to crank up that music, especially when the crowds were real big. And I would do that. And I remember visiting announcers, especially the French radio, which was right next door to us. The plexiglass, pounding on the glass, boom, boom, boom. Turn that down. Can you turn that down? And I'm going, heck with you guys. Crank it up. And now I'm one of the guys. Like, turn it down. So it's kind of ironic.
So it's come full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So let me ask you this, and a lot of people don't, for the people that don't know you that will listen to this or watch this, where did you come up with your famous sayings of clear the deck, cannonball coming, and raise the Jolly Roger? Because I know those are your 2 catchphrases that everybody knows. I've even got, I didn't bring it out here, but I've got a little beanie that's got raise the Jolly Roger on it. Yeah.
You know how much money I get for that, by the way?
You probably get nothing out of that.
Bingo. You win the prize. You win more money than I will get for that. So the phrases, as most people tell you, are, well, if they're honest, there are very few original ideas. Most are stolen.
Right.
And with the raise the Jolly Roger and clear the deck specifically, now others have just come. I do when a Pirate hits a big triple, for example. I'll say triple. And that came from the playground when I was a 10-year-old kid playing wiffle ball. One of my buddies, that's what he would say. We would play wiffle ball on the concrete back of a grade school over by the basketball courts. And so if you hit a ground ball on concrete, And we had the Cosm wiffle ball that had all the holes in it, not the Pete Rose long 3 holes that you throw a curveball without working at it, which I hate. It drives me nuts. And I won't play wiffle ball with those things. You got to get the Cosm wiffle ball and the Cosm bat.
Yeah.
And anyway, so you'd hit a ground ball inside the third base bag. This thing would roll forever, and you could easily get a triple. And my buddy would get triple, and it drove me nuts. But so that one day, somebody was hitting a triple, and it was a big triple, and it came to mind, triple. They raised the Jolly Roger. I was in the front office, I mentioned to you, for a number of years, and I was an 18-year-old kid, intern, my first year there, and I went to the guy that called me kid and said, when a pirate, a real pirate, buccaneer, takes over another ship, they put up a pirate skull and crossbone flag. Wouldn't it be neat if we had a big skull and crossbone flag atop Three River Stadium, like they do when Wrigley Field, when the Cubs win, they put a blue W up. And he basically said, "Get out of my office, kid. We don't want a circus here." So years down the road, I'm announcing, and this is many years announcing, and Bob likes to push my Bob Walk, push my triggers.
Yeah. And
he knows what can get me riled up. And he would get on me all the time about, you're the only announcer that after Pirates win, Lanny's got, there was no doubt about it.
No doubt about it.
Bob Prince, we had him all the way. Marty Brenneman, this one belongs to the Reds. Howie Rose says, put it in the books. The guy in Washington, D.C. now, Charlie Slows, says, that's a curly W. So most announcers have this saying, and now, of course, Mike Lang, Elvis has left the building, was his catchphrase. And I said, I've got a one-track mind. I don't want to get my attention diverted worrying about that, because I think certainly the most important thing is to try and get these calls right and all that. And I did tell him, we talked about it, and I said, mention this thing. I said, when I was in the front office, that's what I did. I went to this guy and told him, he goes, well, yeah, that's the Jolly Roger. And he goes, you still see people on occasion will have that, especially in the early 90s when we were winning, people had flags with the Jolly Roger on it. He says, why don't you say, hoist the Jolly Roger? I said, well, that's not bad. I thought about it. I thought, hoist is so formal. It's proper, maritime to say hoist.
Yeah.
You hoist a flag.
Yeah.
But I said, I don't like hoist. It's too formal. So I said, how about raise? So I started doing raise. And Bill, I did it for I don't know how many years, and nobody paid any attention to it because we were losing all the time.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, 13, 14, 15 comes along, and man, we saw these. They were doing stories about it in the paper. Raise the Jolly Roger, and people were buying, and they started doing T-shirts. And now the Pirates came to me a few years later. In fact, it was probably during that 13, 14, 15 run. I called for the meeting because I said, I'd like to do something where we could, I don't know how we could work with one of the sponsors, maybe Giant Eagle.
Right.
And they said, well, we've been talking to baseball about it. What we'd like to do is baseball would like to trademark it. I said, okay. Walked out of there. There was one time I met with an attorney. My brother's an attorney. He said, I've got a buddy who's a copyright attorney, wants to meet with you for lunch. So we go to lunch. Now, again, this is well before they started winning. This is Three River Stadium.
Yeah.
And he said, you're doing this call. He said, what do you think about copywriting it? I said, well, we talked about the cost and stuff. When all was said and done, the cost of it, I said, and he almost felt like, maybe it's not going to catch on anyway. What if it doesn't? You spend all this money and time. Yeah. Heck with it. I got like a week later, I get a bill in the mail before, you did stuff on the internet from this guy. I can't tell you how much it was. It was ridiculous. I called my brother. I said, I got charged for that lunch. He goes, well, we did talk business. I said, yeah, but I didn't call for the meeting. So he goes, let me talk to the guy. So it probably cost me more money, this phrase. Anyway, long story to tell you that they ended up, baseball now has that trademarked, and good for them, because it's a cool thing, and and especially when the Pirates were winning in 12, 13, 14, 15, to see it all over the country, all over the world. I'll get people when we were in the playoffs on will tweet me or whatnot with pictures like in Greece, Italy. Hey, we're raising the Jolly Roger, and it's almost become tribal. It's kind of cool in that regard.
Yeah, that's cool how it's spread out so far, and it's pretty cool.
The clear the deck, I would do calls for home runs. I still do other things for home runs, depending on who it is. There was a guy, a Pirate fan, years ago, who emailed me once about Aramis Ramirez. He said, why not a Rama Lama Ding Dong? And I was like, dang, well, that's crazy enough, so I did that. That was my call for Aramis Ramirez. Jordy Mercer, he didn't hit many, and he would get on me for that. He goes, you don't get very excited when I hit a home run. I said, well, first of all, they're like wall scrapers. I don't know if they are home runs, so I got to wait it out. And I would do, there was an old song, Marvin Gaye song called Mercy, Mercy Me. I went to Mercer, Mercer Me instead. Little things like that. But for home run calls specifically, I would try different things, and people would suggest things, and so Lanny had go ball, get out of here, for example. But one night after a West Coast game, might have been San Diego, back at the hotel room. So in San Diego, it's probably 11, maybe midnight, might be 3 a.m. in Pittsburgh. I get a phone call, that landline, from my buddy who's my, not only a longtime friend, but my longtime barber, who also owns a bar in McKees Rocks now. And he's half in the bag because he's having a party at his house. And he's there with his dad and his uncle and family members. He goes, oh, we got the call. We've been talking about the call. Here's a home run call. Well, what is it? And he says, first of all, you keep in mind you're a big Caddyshack fan. All right. So this comes to mind when this call. Clear the deck. Cannonball coming. So it serves two purposes. My enjoyment of that cannonball coming, as Bill Murray's character says to Chevy Chase one night when Chevy Chase is out practicing for their big match, and Bill Murray's this crazy assistant groundskeeper character. Carl Spackler is his name, and Chevy Chase's character has the golf ball come through his small little apartment, and they pass along something, and Bill Murray says, cannonball coming. It's not a cigarette, it's something else.
Yeah.
And so, clear the deck, I like that. And then cannonball coming. He goes, you got to do it that way. Clear the deck, cannonball coming. Because a cannonball, like a ship. Well, all right, so I tried it out, and it didn't get much reaction. And again, this is maybe before the Pirates were winning games a lot, not hitting many home runs. But one day during batting practice, unbeknownst to the players, the pitchers were taking BP. It had to be around the 13 season because A.J. Burnett was there, and A.J. Burnett was the one I heard as they're taking batting practice before the gates open. The pitchers are playing this game, and they love trying to hit home runs. Somebody hits a home run, and he says, clear the deck, cannonball coming. And they don't know I'm there. And I thought, wow, if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. So I ran it out there, and now people understand it, they know it, and they like it.
Absolutely. Whether your water is supplied by a public municipality or a private well, for residential or commercial use, Purified Water Services LLC has the solutions to provide you with simply clean water. We offer a complete line of professional water filtration equipment and accessories. Soft water makes a difference you can see and feel. Water heater and appliances last longer with less maintenance. Iron and H2S filters eliminate iron stains and offensive rotten egg odors and protects your water softener equipment from iron fouling. No matter what your problem is, Purified Water Services LLC has a solution. Contact Kenny Williams at 352-446-2709. So we have the University of Florida about, I don't know, an hour and a half from our house. And I'll go up there and I'll watch Gator baseball games. And it's me and my buddy, Justin, Justin Coleman. Before they got a brand new facility. It's beautiful. But I have yet to go to a game there. But the old facility, they had on the first base line, they had the seats would only go probably to about, I don't know, maybe first base. And then the rest of it was just open. So they had this big rail. And we would lean on this rail. And we instead of getting a seat, paid general admission, instead of getting a seat, we would lean on that rail and we had a close. It was like we were in box seats almost, but on the side.
Nice.
And no matter who hit it on the Gators, my thing was, clear the deck.
Oh, nice.
Cannonball coming.
Nice.
And everybody was like looking around like, what is he talking
That's
about?
nice.
But I was like, that, every time I hear that, I mean, it's only, every time it's a good thing. It's not like you hear it and you're like, oh, we lost.
Yeah,
you know
well, I mean, for me, taking me personally out of it, and I mean that sincerely, it's like just as a fan, those are perfect calls for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yes.
Raising the Jolly Roger for Pirates, obviously, makes all this, and clear the deck, cannonball coming. Again, Pirates, it fits so beautifully.
Yep.
There was a podcast I heard last year that ESPN, I think Buster Olney, did it, asked one of their broadcasters, Matt Vasgersian.
Okay.
Who is the MLB Network guy and does some national games, and
he's on the MLB
Matt's a great guy.
Show,
yeah, and
I like him.
but they asked whoever hosted this show said, "What's your favorite home run call?" And he said, "I think the perfect Greg Brown's call is perfect." And it really is. And I, again, like what I got for Raise the Jolly Roger, my buddy Aaron Stubna, who came up with it, what he got for it, zilch. They had a giveaway day, a Clear the Deck Cannonball Coming T-shirt night, and I got him a handful of T-shirts. He goes, "Oh, thanks a lot." I said, "Well, that's more than I get," and I got him to throw out the first pitch too. Ceremonial first pitch, and I had him on the radio too. I said, "Sit down and let me ask you a question before the game."
Yeah,
had him on the radio to talk about it, and it's funny because sometimes I'll see him. I see him several times during the course of the summer, and once in a while he'll say, "You're still not doing it right." So what? He goes, "It's clear the deck, cannonball coming." I said, "Okay, I'll try to get." He says, "The emphasis, cannonball coming." So sometimes when it's happening, I'll try and remember that as I'm doing the call and try and put the exclamation and the emphasis on cannonball coming.
Another, we were talking about Michael McHenry and I were talking about earlier in the earlier podcast. We were talking about the games and stuff. That what was one game? I mean, I could probably think about what game you're gonna say, but what was one game where you're like, man, when you got done with saying Raise the Jolly Roger, you were like, man, that was a game that I'll never forget.
Well, in terms of the end of a game, because one moment in Pirates history that in terms of broadcasting stands out, but the end of game obviously was the wild card game, and not just because all that went on, but I thought I don't get caught up in thinking, wow, my call was great. Because, Bill, calls are only as good as the team, by the way.
Right.
As I said, I was Raise the Jolly Roger and Clear the Deck was going on, especially Raise the Jolly Roger well before they won. Nobody said anything, but then started winning.
Right.
I mean, it's hilarious. And I appreciate many fans will say to me, they did after the 13, 14, 15 seasons, wow, you are really sounding good. And even when the Pirates are losing during without fail, there's going to be a stretch of games that they are winning. They won in 10 of 15 or 17 of 20, whatever. Go on a run, even if at the end of the year is bad, the overall record. And during those times when they're going on that midsummer run where they're playing well, people say, "Wow, you sound better than ever." Yep, thank you very much. No kidding. Well, because of course, and that's just the way it is.
Right.
The announcers that get the most notoriety, and understandably so, are the ones that are on winning teams, and that's okay. And people say, well, how do you do it after all the years of losing? So this is going to be my 31st year broadcasting Pirates baseball.
Wow. I
have seen 4 winning seasons, and they say, how do you do it? All the losing. If someone had asked a 15-year-old Greg Brown, we're going to give you a Pirate job in about 15 years, and you can have that job for 30 years.
Yeah.
But, however, there's a big but here.
Right.
You will lose in 26 of those years.
Yeah.
Do you still want the job? You think I would still? Heck, I don't. Give me that job. So that just goes without saying.
Yeah.
But in terms of the end of, so I don't get caught up necessarily in I get self-satisfaction if I think at the end, that was pretty darn good. Yeah. And not much attention was drawn to this, and I thought it was a really cool call, be honest with you. And I tried, for me, the best calls are the subtle ones.
Right.
The ones that you have to really think about.
Right.
That aren't in your face.
Right.
I like that because those are for kind of hardcore broadcasting fans, and they get it. The ground ball to Neil Walker at the end of that game against the Reds that was going to take them into the division series, the wild card game in 2013. Ground ball to Neil. He throws to Pedro Alvarez for the final out, and they beat the Reds. I say, throw to first, raise the Jolly Roger, and meet me in St. Louis, Louis. Because there's an old film starring Judy Garland with a song in it. In fact, they play it on the organ every game at Busch Stadium in St. Louis during the 7th inning stretch. On the organ, it's meet me in St. Louis, Louis, meet me at the fair. Blah, la, 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 la. Da 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 dee 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 dee. So I don't know all the words, but I know the main title of the song is, and the name of I think the movie was "Meet Me in St. Louis, Louis."
Gotcha.
So "Meet Me in St. Louis, Louis" was my call, and I thought, man, that was pretty darn good.
Yeah.
So that was my favorite end of game call, and then of course going into the playoff, there was a wild stretch of games in 15 leading up to the All-Star game playing the Cardinals that wore me out. I think it was a 4, might have been a 5-game series. It was maybe a 4-game. It was a doubleheader maybe, or maybe it was a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, count 4. Leading up to the All-Star game, and the Pirates won 3 of 4. Maybe lost the first one, but then won 3 in a row, and I think came within a half game of first place, beating the Cardinals, and they won in walk-off fashion. I think Andrew McCutchen hit an extra inning home run for one game. Gregory Polanco hits a line drive base hit to right field. They came back. It was seesaw. It was crowds going crazy, and I don't know, what I said at the end of these games, but I just know they were satisfying games because of how they finished and beating the Cardinals. And I remember needing the All-Star game. I needed those 4 days off because I lost my voice. Yeah. Thank goodness. Mike Langer has always told me to this day, he goes, you gotta watch it, kid. He says, you gotta pace yourself. It's a long season. And I still have not figured that out. And so sure shooting, I ended up losing my voice, got it back just in time for the resumption of the second half of the season.
Oh, wow. Did you have you ever seen there's a YouTube video of you with your calls, but it makes it sound like you're
the bleeped out calls? No, but the guy that used to be the host of the morning show on The Fan, our flagship station, who's gone on to New York to do The Fan there, Greg Giannotti, he created that, the Greg Brown bleep call. Okay. So I guess I didn't listen to their morning show, but big calls for a couple of years, he would say, okay, let's hear some of his. And people would talk to me, a lot of people, because there's a popular thing, I guess, and they would say, I love the bleep. There was a couple of people that didn't like it.
Yeah.
The people that got angry, they'd say, do you like that? And I go, I don't know. I don't listen to it. Well, I don't like it. Why not? Because you don't cuss. I said, well, I think that's the point. They're kind of making it a joke.
Yeah, it's a joke. It's
But so some people couldn't, and so people said, "Did you like it?" I didn't listen to it, and it didn't. I will say this though. Come to think of it, now that you mention it, Bill, I will say this: that whatever year this was, toward the end of the season, we were on the road, and maybe the Pirates already clinched a playoff spot, and this was something unforgettable. But our PR guy, so batting practice has already taken place. I think it was in Milwaukee, I think. Batting practice has already taken place. So the Pirates are back in the clubhouse, which means we're probably 20 minutes from first pitch, 25 minutes.
Yeah.
And our PR guy says, "Hey, you need to go to the clubhouse right now." So, never happens, ever. What? Just go. I walk in through the tunnel, and I look, and there's an opening to the clubhouse. It's quiet. And I look around, and all the players are seated at their lockers.
Yeah.
And they're looking at me. I'm going, "What's up?" And I think Neil Walker was probably Neil, maybe AJ, maybe Mercer also. I'm guessing those are the culprits. But somebody turns and hits a stereo button. And over the speakers in the clubhouse, loud, are these calls. A highlight reel of Greg Brown bleeped out calls. And they are laughing, because I don't know if they've ever heard them before, but they are on the ground. They've got the whole clubhouse is laughing hysterically, and I'm just standing there listening. Okay, and Clint Hurdle came over and goes, "Welcome to the team." Welcome, no, thanks, Clint. I've been around for a while. But so, yeah, that was a kind of a neat thing that the players like. And so, like I said, if players like it, if people like it, I'm all for it. It didn't bother me in the least.
Yeah. Do you have did you have favorite players that you purposely were like you said with Jordy, he would, ask you, y'all would mess around and ask about, well, why is it like that for me? You're
closer to some players over the years, of course. It just happens that way. Yeah. Some of them, because I spent 5 years in the minor leagues, I got to know John Wayner, became a good friend before I came to be an announcer.
Yeah.
He was a player.
Yeah.
And I got to know him. And in the minor leagues, you get to know the players way more because you're on buses together.
Yeah.
You're traveling to the ballpark together. There's nobody in the ballpark. You're sitting there on the bench with them. Things now are so much more isolated. I got to know Neil. I appreciated him so much because I knew him when he got drafted, Pittsburgh guy.
Pittsburgh kid.
And then, I think that I don't think they, personally, my opinion, I don't think the Pirates treat him very well when he's in the minor leagues. And I said that to him when he got to the big leagues. I said, I wouldn't blame you for not being as good a guy as you are. And he's still such a stand-up guy. Al Martin was one of my best friends. He was a Pirate player. He would sit with me on flights. Dan Plesac, I used to be able to, before the evil Ed Sprague came along. Ed Sprague, and I have an enemies list. He might be number one on the enemies list of Pirate players. What a complete jerk he was. Terrible.
Really?
Oh, terrible guy.
Oh, man.
Terrible. And he just, so for me, and others would agree with me, I'm not the only one who looked at him that way, because the way he treated us, and that's the only way you can judge people is how they treat you. But before he came along and became the sheriff, he kicked us off the bus. I mean, we were a team. Back then, of course, there were only 2 buses, and there were not many people. Now they might need 3 buses. We have massage therapists, we have nutritionists, we have assistant nutritionists, we have chiropractors traveling with us. So it's huge, the contingent. But back then, the announcers were on the player buses, and so we knew the players. They were. We were one of them. Not that I didn't look for that, but we just were. We were buddies. So, and Dan Plesac and I would sit in the front of buses. And you mentioned Jordy. I love Jordy. These players just. I really have a fond place in my heart for just about every one of them. One of my favorites, I wouldn't call him a buddy, kind of Niger Morgan. I love that guy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
His energy level, man, I'll never forget walking. I've never seen a clubhouse ever with such a pall over it. It was like a big black shroud covered, like someone had died when I walked into that PNC Park clubhouse following his trade. It was as if they took the heartbeat out of the clubhouse when they traded Niger to the Washington Nationals. I will never forget that.
Catfish Johnny's Restaurant, serving the Lake Pennsauken and surrounding areas since 1990. For the last 33 years, we have strived to serve great food at great prices and a friendly, casual atmosphere. If seafood isn't your thing, our burgers or wings are the best around. We have daily specials too. Check us out on Facebook or Instagram for more information. Pat's Taps at Catfish Johnny's. Pat's Taps is Lake Pennsauken's newest tap room, offering 14 rotating craft beers on tap. We also offer bottled domestic beers, seltzers, ciders, and wine, as well as a variety of appetizers and pub. Our family-friendly tap room is a great place to come hang out and enjoy some one-of-a-kind craft beer. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, or the Untapped app. I was going to tell you about another announcer that I never met but had passed, is Jerry Remy.
Oh, yeah.
From the Red Sox.
Yeah.
So a quick story about him. Like I said, I've never met him, but during COVID, they had I do a lot of sports memorabilia and stuff, and they do a lot of signings. And you'll ship your stuff, just like when I sent you the ball and you sign it for me, just the same thing. But these guys are all over the place, and I had specific instructions because there's a video of Jerry Remy with this call about the slice of pizza that's been thrown.
Oh.
Like this, it's from I guess maybe 2003 or 4, so it's an older video, and guy goes to catch a foul ball on the third base line, and the fan interferes, and this guy in a Patriots jacket throws a piece of pizza and hits the fan that interfered in the
I think I've seen that
back.
video. I think I've seen that.
So they Jerry was during the commercial break we did some investigative reporting, and he's like, I don't have my teleprompter, but here goes the pizza. So that saying I had him inscribe on the
what a great
so
idea.
at my house I've got here comes the pizza.
Oh, that's
Jerry Remy.
awesome.
So it's pretty cool.
Very cool.
But yeah, I love collecting stuff like that. Like I was telling the Fort, I met. Do you remember Craig Anderson? Do you remember him? He was a pitcher for the Mets back in the '60s. I don't know if you met him or not.
I did not.
But he was the last guy to ever pitch at the Polo Grounds.
Oh my goodness.
So I had him sign a ball, and he kind of did like a stat ball. You know, like he had this thing covered, you know, and he was like, he tells me, he's like, nah, I don't want to see this on eBay. And I was like, no, this is going in my collection. So when you were talking about earlier about having collections, I had this huge like chess, like a
case,
like a case,
Uh-huh.
of baseballs.
How much would that be worth, you think?
I don't know.
Any idea? You ever looked it up?
No, I just. But see, that's the thing is.
That's what fascinates me. I'd love to know. I know you wouldn't ever do it, but I'd love to know the worth of something like that.
I mean, Craig's still around. Like he lives in the Villages, and that's where we are. Is near the Villages.
Oh, I didn't know you. Okay.
So we.
Wow.
I asked the Ford. I was like, "Have you heard of the Villages?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "Oh man, it's so refreshing to hear
that you haven't heard of it.
Nobody knows it." So when we went out, we went out to Wyoming for Thanksgiving. To Jackson Hole, and we were talking about, we took a tour around the Tetons, and they're like, so the guy's like, so where are you guys from? And we're like, Central Florida, you know, because nobody knows where our little town is. And we're like, we're near the Villages, and the guy goes, never heard of it. And I'm like, oh
thank goodness. Yes. I'm glad.
Yes. So it was cool. They're like, it was just refreshing to not, for someone not to know where that was.
That's funny. Know? That's funny.
But that's what we're used to. If we said Bushnell, that's the town we live in.
Yeah.
Nobody would know where that is. But if you've ever
right away the Villages. Oh right.
If you ever take 75 South, you go by it every time, but nobody ever knows about it. So, but yeah, guys like that, like you and Jerry and Blass, and I was telling Ford about Spanky, Mike. They had my uncle tells this story all the time how they were at. I don't remember if it was spring training or if it was after a game, but they're talking to him about something, and he goes, he's talking, and one of the players takes a trash can and puts it over him, and he's still talking. Like, he never breaks.
Oh, my God.
He never stops talking or anything. He's not like, hey, who did that? He was just like, so anyways, I thought we put a good game in.
Keep going.
So did you have any guys that you were working with that were like, that are like, I guess you could classify them as like goofballs or
working with like announcers
or players?
I mean, yeah, oh my gosh, we had a lot of those. I mean, Turner Ward, I'll never forget Turner Ward, who's now coach on the Cardinals, hitting coach. And Cardinals or Dodgers now. He bounced around. Maybe it's the Dodgers, I guess. Anyhow, Turner was nuts. He came to the plate one time in St. Louis, last game of the year, both teams out of the race. And he's wearing like fake goofy teeth. And he does this, you've seen those wax teeth.
The Bubba teeth.
Yeah. And he does this big smile after a pitch was delivered and like a ball one or strike when he turns and smiles at the umpire. I like, those guys are gone. Those guys don't exist anymore. Those characters like that. Bob Walk was a character, man, when he played. I talked to his teammates. They loved some of the goofy stuff he would do. He did the, in Montreal, they would put the old scoreboard. He said, I don't remember this, but he said they would have like an overhead projector and they would have cut out paper chickens on a popsicle stick.
Yeah.
And each time a pitcher threw over to first base, they would put a chicken on a popsicle stick under the overhead. And it would appear on their scoreboard. So throws over once, there's one chicken. Wait, throw over a second time, second chicken. 3 times, 3 chickens are on the board. 4 chickens. Well, Bob says, he tells the story, he says, I wonder, he sees the scoreboard, he goes, how much room is there left? How many chickens do they have? I wonder if I could make them run out of chickens. So he throws over again, and I guess Leland says, what is he doing throwing to first base? He goes to Ray Miller, the pitching coach, would you get your beep out there and ask him what the beep he is doing? So Ray Miller wanders out there and says, well, Leland wants to know what you're doing. How come you're thrown over there so many times? He says, well, you see all those chickens? He goes, yeah. He goes, I want to see if we can run out of chickens. Miller doesn't say a word, turns, heads back to the dugout. Leland, what do you say? He's trying to see if they can run out of chickens. What can Leland do but bust out laughing? So I don't know how many he ended up getting out, but that's stuff like that just doesn't happen anymore in terms of characters. And we've got characters in the booth. We've still got Bob. We got John Wayner, who he and I will have. And like I said, I've known him forever. We have subtle jokes and stuff, and we talk, especially before and after games. But we'll get on our what's funny is you get on one of those grade school laughing spells that you can't stop. Yeah. Those are hard. Oh yeah. And I get on a couple of those with Wayner. Those are really difficult. I've got to put my hand up and block my line of vision because I can't. If I see his body shaking and I know he's laughing, it'll make it worse. Matt Capps, I've known since he, of course, was a player, and I call Matt's almost like a mini Blass. Yeah. He's got that irreverent tone to him. He's got that folksy attitude on the air. He doesn't take himself at all or the game seriously, but he does take his job. He wants to be good, and he works at it. Yeah. And he is good. Neil has his own style, and Neil he doesn't do as many games, but I have the impression that once Neil gets really comfortable, he's going to be one of those characters. And Neil had some fun. Like I said, I think he was the guy behind the Greg Brown outtake call. So Kevin Young, I've known Kevin, my gosh, another great Kevin friend. I've known Kevin forever, and Kevin's the same thing. Kevin's got a very sly sense of humor about him that you have to really pay attention to him when he talks on the air. Who else we have? Well, am I missing somebody?
The Bob Walk cracks me up because there's a GIF or a GIF, whatever you want to call it, the GIF of him falling out of the chair. Yeah. And you're just like looking around like, what?
Yeah. Well, that was in Seattle, and he and I were on radio. and we have these swivel chairs. We were only this now we go to Seattle every other year. We will start going, but this is like the second time we'd ever been to Seattle. So we have a monitor in the radio booth that has our TV feed, so we know when we're on most of the time. Now, I try to keep that monitor close enough that I can see it. If I need to see a pitch or a ball hit to the wall and I'm not sure, I try not to rely on the television feed because radio is a different animal. And I don't want to get caught up in calling the TV game. That's not right. You want to watch TV, pirate telecast, watch it. That's fine. But I shouldn't be relying on the monitor all the time. So I try and take a glance. So I might be aware if we're on, but I'm not certain because I'm trying to concentrate. Bob and the color announcers want to rely on that because they want to see what the pitch was, where it was. So they're calling the game based on what they're seeing which is understandable, that center field shot and replays.
Right.
So Bob knows, even though he doesn't act like it, that when we're on. So now he sees that they're talking about us. So if the shot is on us, he knows that the announcers in the TV booth are talking about us if we're on radio. So Bob, trying to be doing something goofy, pretends he's relaxed and doesn't care, leans back, and is ready to put his feet up on the counter. And as he's leaning back, he's unaware that these wheels aren't going to give his big body. Now, I'm not seeing it. I just know he's leaning back. That's all I know. And as I'm calling the game, all of a sudden I hear this boom on the ground. In fact, Wayner was on TV. He said, we could feel the ground shake 3 booths over. It was that loud. I went, whoa. So my first reaction was, oh my, is he hurt?
Yeah.
And when I see him, he's okay. Yeah. My idea was I better call the game because it's not fair to the radio audience. They don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
I don't want to miss a call, miss a pitch, so I'm trying to continue to call the game. Mm-hmm. So it kind of looks weird. So the last outcomes is when I can stand up and try and help him up. But then they made a bobblehead out of it.
Yeah.
So and it's so Bob.
Duto Realty is a homegrown business with an eye for getting the job done right. From football games to Sunday school and everything in between, these ladies care about our community and the people in it. Helping buyers and sellers in all of Florida with all types of transactions, including residential, commercial, farm, or vacant land. They do it all. They even offer auction services and sellouts to always get the job done right. Speaking of other Bobs, did you ever get the chance to, I know you probably met him before, but Bob Euchre?
Oh yeah, no, he's so down to earth. I mean, we see him if he's in the.
You see him probably 3 or 4 times a year.
Yeah, he doesn't travel anymore.
Oh, okay.
I think he picks a couple cities. I don't think he's traveled to Pittsburgh in a couple of years, but we'll see him in Milwaukee. And he was really gracious. We actually happened to be playing the Brewers when we came back from D.C. We had played the Nationals. My mother died, and it was about 5 years ago. And we then played the Brewers after. So I missed, I think, the first game of that series for the funeral. And I came back, and he couldn't have been nicer. He's just a down to earth, obviously hysterical, and a really good broadcaster. He's another guy like I talk about, Bill, where I've got the XM satellite radio. I've got the MLB app. Yeah. So after games, I want to hear what's going on around baseball. I'll listen to games a lot of the other announcers, and I'll certainly hear Uke, and he's really good.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've always liked the documentaries about him and stuff like that. And MLB Network did a documentary about him. And some of the stuff he comes up with, like when he was doing Monday Night Football. Or no, actually, it wasn't Monday Night Football.
He did some Monday Night Baseball.
Yeah, he did Monday Night Baseball with Howard Cosell.
Yeah.
And he was all over the place this one night. And Howard Cosell said, Bob, you're being very truculent tonight. I bet you don't even know what that means. And he said, oh, yeah. It's if you had a truck and I borrowed it, then that's a truculent.
Yeah. He's so quick. So he's like Blass.
Yeah.
They're so quick. It's a gift to be that quick-witted, that sharp, and still going strong at his age. I mean, he's probably pushing the mid-80s.
Yeah, he's one of those people that are on the like you'd like to meet.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But everyone I've talked to that's met him, they're like, yeah, he's such a genuine guy. And
Joe Block worked with him for about 5 years. Joe Block, was in the radio booth in Milwaukee for 5 years, I think.
Oh, okay.
And so he knows Bob really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to hold you up too much longer, but I just wanted to ask you a few more questions about the upcoming. I see that Kutch is back. We got him again, and that's got to bring some excitement to Pittsburgh.
I think it will. I think, it certainly brought it last year.
Yeah.
I think there's a interesting dynamic going on now because I think it's good that Kutch came back, but I think the fans are now expecting, and understandably so, and I think Bob Nutting is expecting this is going to be a different year.
Yeah.
And it was nice to have Kutch back. I think Kutch wanted to come back because he saw the team improving and thought like he'd love to finish his career with the Pirates. But now, Kutch is back, but okay.
Yeah.
It's as Ben Cherington said, he's not a hood ornament. I love that line.
Yeah.
Not a hood. He's here to play, and he's here to win. It's going to be an interesting too to see how Derek Shelton's going to be really tested.
Yeah.
Where does McCutchen get his at bats? Where does he play?
Yeah. Will he be just DH? Or
I don't know. And if he is, that takes away opportunities for other guys. The idea was he's going to play a lot of right field last year. Well, that didn't happen because he got hurt.
Yep.
Can he stay healthy enough to play more outfield? Yep. That's going to be an interesting dynamic. And how good will McCutchen be? He's another year older, and he had that major injury. So no guarantees, and that's going to be tough. Now, I think he's self-aware enough that if he thinks he's hurting the team, he won't go back out there.
Yeah.
So
I was telling Fort that he's like my unicorn. Every time I'm trying to get him to sign a ball, it's never worked out. And so Fort's like, I got you.
Good.
I'll get you one.
He will.
I'm like, all right, I appreciate it.
He will.
But like I was telling him a story. We went to spring training last year, and I took my stepson and stepdaughter and my fiance, and they'd never been to a Pirates game.
Oh, wow.
And I know it's not the same as PNC Park, but they enjoyed it. They loved it. But Caden, she's 16, or she's 17 now, but she was 16 at the time. She was more in love with Castro.
Oh, my God.
Jason and I, we went and found
Rodolfo Castro.
Yeah, Mitch Keller was super nice.
I
got him to sign my jersey, and of course, I'm the one that brings the baseballs to the baseball game because I'm trying to get signatures, and we have the two kids that go, "Hey, I need a ball."
Yeah, get me one. Yeah, now I do want an autograph.
So I give him a ball.
Wait, that's mine.
That was mine.
Yeah. Give me a baseball.
I was telling Ford, I was like, I may have like a 6-year-old, but that's my ball.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
So and then both of them are in their rooms, and they've got Castro. He signed the ball for Caden, and she was happier than happy as a clam.
Who was the other one signed by?
Mitch Keller.
Oh, okay.
He signed it for Jason.
Oh, that's great.
I was like, guys, these are my baseballs. They're like not anymore.
Oh yeah, they didn't care that you had baseballs going in.
Yeah, they're like.
Then they became very important.
Yeah, they're like, why are you bringing baseballs to a baseball game? I'm like, guys, you never know. Yeah. Another funny story is I got to meet John Candelario one year, and so the story goes, that he was down there at the right field line, and he's sitting in the chair, kind of like for any foul balls or whatever, and I was like, man, I got to get the Candyman's signature, man, and so everybody was like asking, no, I'm working here, whatever. So all right, I'll let it be. So I see him walk over, and there was someone he was talking to. And lady comes over and talks to him, and I was like, now's my chance. There's a female. So I don't know. I think it was somebody he was related to or something, but he was talking to him, and I was like, hey, Candyman, can you sign my baseball? Like I was 6 again.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, and he's talking to her, and here you go. And everybody came up. He's like, that was the only one I'm signing.
Is that right?
So I came back up, and there's a guy goes, I just lost $100 because I bet my brother that he wouldn't sign your baseball.
Really? So he's got that reputation of not signing.
I guess at that moment he was.
When was this?
Oh my gosh, probably like 5-6 years ago.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
He's an interesting guy. I've had some moments with him.
Yeah.
Going back to my teenage years.
Yeah.
Instructional league. He was working on some. I guess he had been hurt that year, and I was the clubhouse guy. So he doesn't even know it. I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I've never said anything to him about it. But he married our broadcast secretary, who passed away suddenly. He had divorced her afterward. He had divorced her, and she passed away a couple of years later. Had an aneurysm. A wonderful lady, Mary Lou Nerone, and so I've watched Candy. He's had a hard life, an interesting life. When I was a fan, I remember he called out the general manager. He called him Bozo the Clown. And so in print, here's a Pirate player calling the Pirate general manager Bozo the Clown. Joel Brown then got him out of town, traded him to the Dodgers, I believe it was. So his career with the Pirates finished on kind of a sour note at that point. I don't know if you know this or not. I think with his first wife, had an infant child. I think they were in Florida. It might have been during spring training, might have been in Pittsburgh, not sure exact location, but he and or his wife had walked away from the swimming pool.
Oh, no.
And their infant child fell in and drowned.
Oh, man.
So he's had a tough life. And he's multifaceted, and he's an interesting guy because Joe Lynette, the third base coach for the Pirates in 1979, I'd gotten to know a little bit. He spent about 10 years as the Pirates coach, Beaver Falls guy. He passed away about 8 years ago. A small mass held at Beaver Falls. I went to the church with another former member of the Pirates front office. Not many people there at this church, this Catholic church in Beaver Falls. Funeral, his family, I knew his wife and his two daughters. Casket goes up, mass is ended, walking out. And who do I see off to the right-hand side at the very back of the church? Nobody notices. John Candelaria. And I walk up to him, I said, Candy, what are you doing here? He goes, Joe Lynette, man. I said, you don't live in Pittsburgh? He goes, no, I live down in North Carolina. How long did it take you to get here? 10 hours. I'm driving back now. Oh, it was like a 1 o'clock, maybe noon mass. He drove back without any fanfare whatsoever.
Yeah.
John Candelaria, the only former Pirate that was there, had driven from North 10 hours to go to that mass, again, unannounced, no fanfare, and goes back. That tells you something about the person deep down.
Oh, yeah. Promotional consideration paid for by the following. Travelin' Tom's Coffee Truck, the delicious mobile coffee truck that brings you the caffeination inspiration you need. We deliver signature coffee products like our Nitro Cold Brew and Caramel Frappe to any occasion or festivity. And for those who don't like coffee, we offer a variety of delicious hot chocolates, energy drinks, lemonades, and teas. That's Travelin' Tom's Coffee Truck. I think he's really a nice guy. I just think there are people that do that, and they're like, well, look, I'm not signing.
But I will say this, though, Bill. There are some guys I will never, for me, easy for me to say I'm an announcer, but I've watched enough baseball, football, sports over the years, broadcasting. I've watched it all, and there's no excuse for me, none. I just don't believe in that. Now, there are rare occasions, I think, where I have to go for some but for the most part, guys don't have a lot to do. I've had debates with players, many debates. I had one guy, I won't name his name because not fair, in the minor leagues. He was a veteran catcher, spent time in the major leagues. Good guy, but a very pedestrian career. You might know his name if I say it. I don't know if you will, but he's no Johnny Bench, I can tell you this. Right. But he was on his downswing of his career, so he's just holding on, playing for the Buffalo Bisons, AAA affiliate of the Pirates, and just this veteran back, not even a starting catcher on the Buffalo team. And we're sitting outside the dugout. He's sitting on the steps. I'm leaning up against the railing before the game. And I think we're in Rochester, maybe Syracuse. getting ready for a game, and I'm just talking. And a good guy, again, I'm going to point this out, good guy.
Yeah.
But some young kid leans over the dugout railing with a baseball card of this guy when he was playing for one of these major leagues. He played for about 5 big league clubs. Mr. So-and-so, can I have your autograph? And he and I are kind of talking. He goes, he goes, Mr. He goes, no. And I said, can I ask you a question? Why wouldn't you sign that? He goes, he's just going to sell it. Yeah. I said, sell? You're not. I don't think so. I don't think he's going to sell your card. And if he is, you're not going to get anything for it.
Yeah.
But that, and then I've had one player get on me because I'm pulling out of our garage lot at the ballpark, and the players park there too. And I guess I didn't go off to the side. I tried to, but now they have a barrier, so fans can't get close. This is when fans could come up to the car.
Right.
And so I rolled down my window. I always tell people, I'm just an announcer. I don't want to assume anything. I don't want to drive by people. What a jerk he is.
Yeah.
He won't sign. But I also don't want to assume, hey, you want my autograph?
Yeah,
wow.
True.
So I give them the courtesy, hey, I'm just an announcer. And I've had some people who know me. When I was their age, I wanted the announcers, and believe me.
Yeah.
I'll never forget when I got Lanny Frateri's autograph. So I've had a player say, you're holding up the line. I'm holding up the line. I'm signing autographs that you guys won't sign.
Right.
So I just don't think there's any excuse.
Yeah.
I really don't.
No, I agree, and I'm glad you say that because I mean, my thing is, when I was a child, my parents, they never took me to a baseball. We didn't have the Rays. I didn't do the Rays didn't come out till I was in high school, and they're not my favorite team. So, but if that had been Pittsburgh, I probably would have caught more games in Tampa. You know what I'm saying? I would actually go.
Yeah, I understand.
But see, we had spring training down there, and they had like, did you ever go to Boardwalk and Baseball?
Yeah.
We had that.
Braves.
Yeah, stuff like that. They had all those camps, but it was just never like I never really wanted to go. Like I didn't even know they came to Florida.
Yeah.
Like I had no idea. But sometimes I feel like I'm a little kid when I ask, and I'm just like, look, these are guys that I like.
That's the danger of being an adult these days, by the way, because players are reticent to sign autographs for adults because there's such a huge industry.
Oh, yeah.
And they do assume, many of them, so they don't. I've seen it at times, and there are so many that kind of ruin it for the kids.
Right.
And there are adults that even ask me to sign like these. They've got it all made out, or else maybe it's a card of it's like a baseball on a baseball card. It's a baseball card, a picture of a baseball,
right.
And they want you to sign that perfectly, and put raise the jolly, and I think, well, that's okay, but I can get it if they're doing that for players too often.
Yeah,
especially the same ones show up time and time again. But still, I've seen too many examples of, and you never forget the players that don't sign.
Right.
I had to be maybe 12 years old, maybe not, whatever it was. I had written a song, because you don't know any better.
Yeah.
I wrote a song for John Candelaria and wrote it and sent it to. There was a song called "The Candy Man" by Sammy Davis Jr.
Right.
And so I changed the lyrics, which I thought was I thought he's going to love this, and they're going to start playing. You don't know any better.
Yeah.
Heck, I'm from a cow country in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. I'm a hick, but I don't know any better. So I send it off to John Candelaria. Like the next year, maybe later that summer, I happen to be down by the dugout with a bunch of other fans, and here comes Candelaria signing autographs. And I just put my scorecard out there. I say, John, did you get my letter? I wrote you a letter with the song.
Yeah.
No, I didn't get any letter. I was crushed.
Oh, yeah.
And all these years later, I remember.
Still think about it. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, when I started, my brother got me into it. He was trying, he starts collecting. He's a big Red Sox fan. So he started getting me to collect with him. And that's when we were down there. We had gone down there a few times. And try to get anybody I can. But there were people down there doing that. Like, they had the big book, and they were like, no. Like, they would pull out cards. I was like, that's why we can't get a ball signed.
Ruin it for others.
Yeah, exactly. But I did take Jace, my stepson. I took him, and they loved him. I was like, bro, see that guy over there? Get him to sign your ball. Make sure it's on the sweet spot.
I've got a buddy, a close friend, who takes his son, who probably is now, he used to, I don't know if he's still doing it, but his son's probably 16 years old now, maybe not that old, but a few years ago, they would go to a bunch of ball games, and he would wear during batting practice, he would put a T-shirt on of the visiting team. So if we're playing the Brewers, he'd put the Brewers shirt on, and they'd hang out in left field, and they'd yell for baseballs.
Yeah.
And he's got hundreds of baseballs.
Oh, wow.
Because of that. But he's a kid,
obviously,
so they tossed to the kid with a jersey on.
Right.
But, yeah.
How cool is it that Jim Leyland made it to the Hall of Fame?
Well, I mean, it's for me, it was a no-brainer, but I know it was a close call. I think he's a Hall of Fame person, Hall of Fame manager.
Yeah.
I said it. He won a Pittsburgh Rotary Club award. My goodness, had to be maybe 15 years ago, and downtown. And I introduced him, and I said, I'm convinced he will be in Cooperstown someday because he deserved it then,
right.
And then he just added on to it.
Right.
So, yeah, I think it's really cool. I happened to be in Nashville for the winter meetings. I've never been to the winter meetings. First time I went this year.
Yeah.
And was able to be there for his press conference, which was just so wild. And I've known his wife, Katie, who worked in the front office. That's how she met Jim. So I knew Katie before she met Jim.
Yeah.
And I saw Katie, and we talked about it and how cool it was. And he just,
that's so cool.
he's wonderful, and I can't wait. I wish I could be there for it. We're playing, of course, that day, but I'll certainly be watching it very closely, his induction speech.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I've never met him, but I've always, seen, I've loved the way he coached, and, the whole thing with him and Bonds and how that went down, and how he was just, and how Barry was like, look, I was in the wrong, and it's funny to hear somebody actually, like, nowadays it's like it's all their fault.
Well, I think Bonds. Well, frankly, that incident put Leland on the map.
Yeah, no doubt.
And Bonds has had to answer to it, which is fine. And Bonds has said, and they say they're close friends to this day now.
Yeah.
And it was a brilliant move on Leland's part. You could see his patience had worn thin.
Yeah.
And it was time to end the game, and that Leland could be tough like that, but he can cry at the drop of a hat, which is kind of funny about him. And there's so many great stories about Jim Leland. He's one of a kind, one of the best. He's the best baseball person I've ever met. My favorite baseball person. When I'm sitting with him, it's like I'm sitting with Aristotle or Zeus.
Yeah.
He just has so much wisdom about the game. I just don't think there's anybody better.
Well, Greg, I can't thank you enough for stopping by today and taking time out of your busy schedule. I know, like you said, you're super busy, and but I really appreciate you coming by today and hanging out with me. There's nobody else here, but
it's great though, man.
It is great, and I'm so glad that we were able to do this.
I am too.
So
thank you, Bill.
Yeah, man. And guys, that's going to be a wrap for right now. That was Greg Brown, the voice of the Pittsburgh Pirates. And until next time, we'll see you down the road.